There's an absolutely delightful and awkward reality that we are currently exploring, which is that some of failed former President Donald Trump's top staffers may indeed end up being the top witnesses against him, the most devastating witnesses against him in one or many of his upcoming clinical trials, criminal trials. That there should be, by the way, we probably should have some clinical trials as well, but we're sticking here with criminal trials that Trump is going to be involved in. Let me kind of weave the story for you. One of the things that many have noticed about the indictment so far, interviews, witness lists, unindicted co-conspirators, and the like, is that there are certain names missing from those lists. Certainly Trump's own son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who was so involved with almost everything Trump did, is essentially non-existent in any of these documents, which raises questions about what's the story with that. But that's a family member, by marriage anyway. How much that matters to Trump, we don't know. But what about the name Mark Meadows, Donald Trump's last chief of staff, who was there front and center for January 6th, for trying to steal the election, for trying to get the 11,000 votes? Give me a break. Mark Meadows' name is conspicuously missing, particularly from the third overall second federal indictment against Donald Trump. And this is naturally leading to questions about whether Mark Meadows has flipped, whether Mark Meadows is cooperating, whether when it comes to the time for the trial, Mark Meadows himself is going to end up testifying against Trump. I found along these lines a very interesting Washington Post article, Awkwardness in Trump's Circle. This is from over the weekend. Top aides could be trial witnesses. This is a Washington Post piece by Isaac Arnsdorf and Josh Dawsey. And it explains at least 7 currently serving advisors to former President Trump took actions that are mentioned prominently in one of his 3 criminal indictments or have been interviewed by prosecutors, potentially setting up an uncomfortable situation in which they are working for his 2024 presidential campaign while also serving as witnesses at one of his upcoming trials. There's a whole list of folks. This includes Walt Nauta, the close personal aide to Trump, who's a co-defendant in the first federal indictment, and a whole bunch of other people. But there's another layer to this, which is even people that aren't currently working for Donald Trump, but that at one point did, they also may end up figuring prominently in Trump's upcoming criminal trials. Reuters reports Mike Pence does not rule out being a witness for Trump's prosecution. William Barr was asked, would you testify? And although it wasn't completely clear whether Barr would testify in Trump's defense or for the prosecution, although different people who saw that had different opinions, William Barr said, although he doesn't want to get involved because he has, quote, better things to do, he, of course, would show up if indeed he was asked to testify. So this is an extraordinarily contentious moment for the failed former president. And you truly may have a situation where, we've said for a long time, Trump doesn't really have friends in the way that most people have friends. Trump has people he associates with if they're sucking up to him in the right ways for the period of time that they are useful to him. This applies to Trump's voters. He was all buddy-buddy with the voters in the lead up to the 2020 election. Then he lost and they weren't useful anymore. So Trump didn't care about his supporters. But then he figured, I can grift them for money, supposedly to try to overturn the election. My friends, come in, donate, etc. And then they were useless to him again. And this applies to Trump staffers as well. You're my best friend while you're sucking up to me. And then you're a terrible person when you're not. John Bolton, William Barr. The list is endless. It's dozens and dozens. And if you include Trump's business history and business career, it's certainly hundreds of people, if not thousands, that fit this sort of mold. So this is a reality. When it comes down to it, when it comes down to the end of these trials and possibly the end of Trump's political career and even potentially the end of Trump's public life, the people that might at the end of the day really damage his defense most severely might well be some of his closest former and even potentially current staffers. But in the immediate, Trump has bigger problems. Listen to this.